This is a Check This Out exclusive.
Of the 7.2 billion people on Earth, 3 billion have internet access. 2.1 billion are using social media right now.
Check This Out News, coming to you live.
Check this out. You know, we always keep our ear to the streets, man. And on the line right now, I got somebody that is trailblazing and making a lot of incredible things happen, curates a lot of things that we see in front of our eyes and a lot of things that our ears get a chance to sample. Ray Inez, he's marketing director at Sony. Correct, Ray?
Yes, sir.
Ray, how
Sony
you doing?
Latin. I'm doing well, sir.
Good. Sony Latin. Well, you know what I'm saying? Let's talk about it, man. You're behind some of the biggest names in Latin music right now, correct?
Yes, sir, we are.
Can you kind of give us a snapshot from your perspective of those names? Because I know you're real humble with it, Ray.
Well, you know, now we have the likes of Bad Bunny, who did over 3 billion streams last year. This year, presently passed on Spotify. We have Asuna, who was neck and neck with him. We have Maluma. These are some of the more afford names. You have J Balvin, who did the song with Frenchman. Different things of that nature, what is current and what's going and what's out on the streets.
Absolutely. Man, so with the success that's taking place in Latin music just overall, I mean, what's really amazing is to see how beneficial streaming has been in these up-and-coming genres where they weren't given so much, say, the same light or respect, even the way hip-hop was initially, and it's kind of become its own phenomenon. Would you agree?
Absolutely, unequivocally. It actually helps all artists. It helps new artists as well. Doesn't matter the genre. It helps hip-hop. It definitely helps the reggaeton movement. Because what happens is now we don't have to rely so much on every radio station to like us or to like our music, to play us. Through social media, I can share what my new work is, what new work I have coming out. I give you a snip, little piece, like kind of like what we call in the movie a trailer. And if you like what you hear thus far, then you go to my YouTube or you go to the Spotify or you go to the titles or you go to the Apple Music, and you get to stream it, you get to download it. Now I'm getting people all across the world in lieu of just Atlanta, just New York, just LA, just the Miamis. I get people all over the world to download and stream my music. So that's how technology has afforded these artists to get to a bigger platform in a shorter period of time. When you look at the Jay-Z's and the Puff Daddies of the world and the Cool Hercs, they didn't have these platforms available to them. So they had to do other things. They had to rent cars and take trains and take planes to go across the country to just give music to radio DJs and hope that the radio DJs bless them and bless their audiences with their great talents and their great works.
Yeah, man, it's amazing to see, and I tend to feel that with every genre, there's always that X factor that kicks in. You know what I'm saying? The thing that no one else was expecting, and it just catapults it to the very front of the line. Especially when you think, you know, you look at something like a Despacito last year, which did phenomenal numbers, but wasn't, you know, as recognized the way many thought it should be. What are your thoughts on that and how that came about?
So Despacito was kind of, how do you put that? That was kind of, so in the Hispanic community, you have, it's kind of odd to say this, but you kind of have two different areas. You have your South American, Mexican, and then you have the Puerto Rican, Dominican communities and cultures. So that type of music was more of a commercial and a South American, and it wasn't as commercially recognized as, say, Bad Bunny's Deporte, where everybody just took a liking to it. It was the track, the beat, the production behind it. It was an uplifting beat. So it was great. It still did. I mean, the numbers did astronomical. It was you couldn't compare it in comparison but it's two different genres in a sense.
Yeah.
It worked. It was great, but it was two different things. Deporte was a song that Bad Bunny did, which just for your audience that doesn't speak Spanish, it means get up and bounce, basically. If you listen to it, it just gives you this, no matter what you're doing, it just gives you an uplifting. It gives you a rise. If you're depressed, you're happy for whatever reason. If you're happy, you're even happier. If you're tired, you wake up. If you're energized, you get even more energized. So it's just two different lanes and two different styles of Latin music.
So let me ask you this, Ray, just getting an education, because one thing I do know is, you wouldn't confuse someone who was Mexican with someone who was Dominican and vice versa. But, kind of elaborate a little bit more, because everybody, everything is not the same just because, it's a Spanish-speaking record, obviously, right? So how do you make these differentiations, so to speak, in terms of what's evolving and what's coming?
So it kind of gets breaking down into a Drake, a Styles P, a Drake and a Jay-Z. A Kanye West Jay-Z. It gets broken down more into the beat, the way it flows, the continuity of the song, the lure of you have like a Jadakiss, a Styles P. You had the gangster raps, and then you have the smooth rappers. So it's basically along the same line. So you also have reggaeton. And then you have what they like to call themselves as the Mambo Kings. The Mambo Kings are Asuna and Bad Bunny. They've done a number of tracks together. And basically, Mambo Kings is more smooth. It's it's kind of a still up-tempo, but it's still smooth. It's more maybe even geared towards the ladies in a sense. Like you want to appease your female community in lure of that heavy energy, go, 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 go.
Let me ask you this, Ray, because I find it very interesting, and I'm just a fan of music across the board and from around the world. And, oftentimes when I look at what is now, who would you say, like, what kind of foundation was laid? I always remember Gloria Estefan and Miami Sound Machine as being like, damn, this is crazy. You know what I mean? But she was kind of like, not necessarily that she was doing, Latin or reggae music per se, but she was, of Latin descent, obviously. And, it was kind of like, wow, this is like amazing. Is it a surprise to you now that it has now become its own, or such a dominant genre overall?
Not necessarily. The Hispanic culture has always received love. We're a loving community, and it's always been about peace, love, and unity. And we've always had unity and love for everything and everybody. We're multicultural. If you look at the influx or the infancy of reggaeton, it is a cross culture. So you have the hip hop in there, obviously. You have the mainstream where it's to everybody. You have the dembow, so it's like a little bit of the reggae as well. Hence reggaeton. If you look at Gloria Estefan was a trendsetter in her own, being a Cuban American in Miami at a time of a lot of racial dissent. But she was able to break the barriers and come out with music that everybody could appreciate. It didn't matter what your nationality was. It was just a music. It was a vibe. It was a love to it. And that's what we're on. We're just trying to bring happiness and peace and unity to everybody and hope that everybody enjoys what we're doing.
Yeah. Well, tell me about Bad Bunny. He's just had such a meteoric rise, and I know it didn't come overnight, but man, like he's like a rock star essentially, and these numbers, like it's like people are like blown away and are in love with reggaeton and just the culture overall. Why is that, Ray? What do you think it is?
Well, reggaeton started in the early 90s. It took its course. It took its time. It's not something that exploded overnight. It took its time. It was here for a while, and what they didn't do was they kind of did what the freestyle music was, what Jennifer Lopez started out in, and the Brenda K. Stars, which is just the same production, the same beat, the same producers, the repetitiveness. And then what they seen was, okay, this is just not going to work anymore. We have to go back to the lab, go back to the studio and change it up. Bad Bunny was somebody that was, he was discovered. He was in college in Puerto Rico and working in a supermarket at the same time to support his craft.
My man!
He was in the studio. DJ Nelson, who's one of the pioneers of reggaeton, heard him, heard his sound, heard his voice, and knew right away that he had the hit. He was the Quincy Jones. He was the Puff Daddy of the reggaeton music, where he had that ear. He could say, this guy here is who's going to make it. He's going to be part of the future. And he was right. He was dead on.
That's amazing to go from bagging groceries in college to,
to stardom.
To stardom. I mean, billions of streams. I think that the reggaeton artists are they're breaking all the records, when it comes to streaming. Do you think it's just the collective power in Latin America across the board? Is it just, is it because, obviously when you leave America, you see the influence of Latin culture, and how dominant it is, just even around the world, I would say. And especially, when you go to South America, where are all these numbers coming from, Ray?
They're collective throughout the world, but if you look at Forbes magazine, Forbes has the Hispanic community as the number 2 consumer in the world as of right now.
Holy shit.
So our buying power is second to none, with the exception of the United States' hunger, and we comprise a lot of the United States as well. So it's the support system. And then, believe it or not, it's not only the Hispanic community now. He has broken into mainstream. And when I say mainstream, when you have somebody on the caliber of Drake who met him and found out about Bad Bunny a year ago and took a year to make sure that he could fully command the Latin language, to then come back and say, okay, I'm ready to do a track with you, the Mia Mia track, that took a year. A lot of people thought that was an overnight thing. That started last year, December? It started last year, November of 2017, that plan was hatched to where it came back almost a year. That song dropped, I believe, September of 18.
Okay. Wow. So how did they meet, Ray? How did that collaboration? I know, you said he met him, but how did they cross paths? Was it Drake reaching out to Bunny or what?
Yes. So when you're a new artist, especially an artist in a new genre, different language, different culture, you're almost honored for a Drake to reach out to you, to work with you, to do something with you. It's almost an honor. He happened to be at Vegas at the same time. It was kind of a lucky situation where Drake was doing a show in Vegas at the time. He heard about an artist named Bad Bunny. He wasn't sure what to think. He didn't know who or what to think. He didn't know. He came and started doing his research, saw the show, and the powers to be made contact. They talked, and Drake felt like he could do a song right then and there. It could be an English and Spanish song, but I think Drake wanted to go outside of his comfort zone and do something bigger, and that's where his craft and his artistry came in, of being versatile and saying, you know what, I can do something one up. I can obviously get on a record and give bars and make it flow with continuity to a Spanish song, but why should I do that when I'm a true artist and I can go in and I can do something different? And that's what he did.
We want to